Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. After the release of the interview with Greg Hoverson, we're continuing our non-racing content by bringing you a first look on the channel at the Audi RS6 Avant Performance, which we're due to take delivery of later this year. We'll talk through why the RS6 is the car for us, the order process from start to finish, and the final spec of the car with the options packages that we chose. We'll also talk through some quick advice on the best way to secure an RS6 allocation for what is already turning out to be a very high demand model. So why an RS6 Performance? Well, it's practical. We have two kids, and personally I've always loved the uniqueness of estate cars or wagons for our North American viewers, and with the takeover of SUVs, the wagon feels a bit more iconic these days if you want to blend practicality with performance. I've always been an Audi fan, passed down from my dad who ran an original S2 and RS2, the spiritual predecessor to all of the RS wagons that Audi now produces. It will almost certainly be the last V8 RS6, other than the RS6 GT model that is rumoured for 2024, more on that a little later. And it's possible it could be the last V8 Audi with the rush to electric and hybrid models. The competition the RS6 faces is typically the BMW M5 competition and the AMG E63S. For me, the AMG styling is pretty flat, doesn't do a lot for me personally, and whilst I have a lot of love for the M5, there's no wagon variant, so it misses the mark on that point for us. Compared to its 2021 release model, the performance iteration of the RS6 has more power, up to 621 brake horsepower, more torque, 627 pound-feet, bigger turbos with more boost pressure, less weight, less sound deadening, lighter differential, dynamic ride control suspension, sharper gearing, louder exhaust. And the great thing for me about all of these changes is they're in line with the things reviewers of the original 2021 RS6 said were lacking on an otherwise well-reviewed car, so Audi listened and good for them. And even if none of that was of interest, we'd still buy it for the way that it looks. Surely one of the best exterior designed Audis since the original TT. Let's talk a little bit about the order process. So last month is when we got word that we'd received one of the first allocations from our local Audi dealer, which was great news. We quickly worked through the specs, put the deposit down, and got the order submitted. In reality, though, the order process actually started years ago at the beginning of this generation of the C8 RS6, which began in 2020 and was the first RS6 ever to make it over to North America in 2021. For a car with somewhat limited quantity and high demand, it does help to get on a dealer's waitlist early, and for this one, we put our name down for this model before it was even clear there was going to be a performance variant. It's certainly possible to still get one if you're looking today. We'll chat about how best to do that a little bit later, but to get an early allocation for a car like this, you're going to need to be near the top of your dealer's waitlist. For the next couple of months, we don't expect to hear too much as the build week is 3823, which is mid-September. The order will remain open for a while, so we can make changes to the spec if we want to, but otherwise it's a bit of a waiting game and hoping that there's no delays to the build week, so we'll keep you posted. Onto the final spec and option packages that we went for the RS6 Performance. I've been wanting to make this video since we put the order in back in June, but as we were lucky enough to get one of the earlier allocations in Canada, the Audi configurator wasn't available yet and only went live for the RS6 Performance last week. However, now it's been released, we can step through all of the available options that we have to work with for the Canadian model, and we'll put the build together that we currently have submitted with Audi. So let's take a look through the configurator. We're on the Audi Canada site here. We'll jump into the build and price. Now, the first thing that we get at the top here is just a notice about the ongoing parts shortage, and it's true. I think Audi is delivering significantly less vehicles this year and the year before than they did pre-pandemic, so those supply chain issues continue to plague the company and likely other car manufacturers as well. But all good. So there's no real main options at the beginning, it's just the RS6 Avant Performance. So we jumped straight into the paint selection, had a good think about this, and decided to go with a Ascari Blue Metallic. This is a paint that isn't available or wasn't available on the 2021 or 2022 versions of the regular RS6, so they've added it for the performance, so it looks good. We'll take a look at the wheels, but that will come with another package that we're going to select in a second. You can see the standard wheels are these 10-spoke 21-inch dynamic RS wheels. They look fine. I know some people are a big fan of those and the simplicity, but the newer RS Performance specific wheels are 22-inch and are also lighter than these 21-inch wheels, so creates a little bit of weight saving. So that is the option that we decided to go with. Same for the interior. We're going to pick that a little bit later, part of a specific package that we're going to go with. So the dynamic package, we added that really to make sure that we got the Quattro rear differential, all-wheel steering, dynamic steering. We want to, even though this is a 2-ton wagon, try and get as much of a sporty feel out of it as we can. Red brake calipers, still a little bit on the fence with this, especially with it being a blue car, but have got them added currently in the order, so we'll add them here too. Now there's two main packages that change the exterior look of the car. First is the black optics, which does look nice, and you can see the wheels that it comes with here, kind of the silver and the black two-tone. Lovely look, especially if you have a darker color paint. But we went with this carbon matte optics package, as that's going to add some carbon fiber finishing to some of the exterior housing, such as the mirrors and some of the pieces on the front and the rear of the car. So we'll add that in here. We'll just apply changes. So you'll see here, so now we're getting closer to the build, so that it's also added those lighter weight wheel options. Now you can actually pick with the carbon optics package one of two versions of this wheel. The one that's currently selected are the neodymium gold wheels. Big fan of those. They look quite silver on here, but I believe in person there's a bit more of a gold tinge to them, so quite like the look of that. Also the black wheels, the matte black wheels, they also look great, and the only reason that we decided not to go with these is we have a set of winter tires on some Vossen wheels, which are also black, so we'll get the black wheel contrast in the winter, and then these will be the summer wheels and the summer tires that come with them. So if we head on back down, now there's two design packages, and these are also unique to the RS6 Performance. And something that I'm a big fan of, the red I've had in cars before, it does look great, no question, but I really like what they've done with the blue RS design package this time. You've got carbon fiber twill, which you have as standard, but they add a blue accent through it, which I think is going to look fantastic. And they also add the blue stitching, which you can see here in the photos, and also the seat belts are in a full blue this time, so big fan of all of those changes. So certainly one of the top options that we selected once we saw it available. Now the standard suspension on an RS6 and an RS6 Performance is the air suspension. Reviews of that are fantastic in terms of the balanced ride that it can provide, but again, we're looking to get this RS6 Performance feel as sporty as it can for a car of its size, and this dynamic ride control suspension, whilst being a little bit firmer on the ride, is just going to add that bit more of a sporty feel, keep the car more centered and more level, as we're driving it enthusiastically through the mountains. So we have added that as well. Now there's a few other additions that we've not put on. The Dynamica headliner, do quite like that, just not a huge fan of the cost of it for what it offers. The leather package is covered by one of the other options that we already have selected. And the night vision assistant, I'm a big tech guy. I definitely had a good look at this, but again, wasn't convinced of the value and the amount that we'd get from that, so decided against it. And the same for the B&O 3D Advanced Sound System. The RS6 already comes with a very strong B&O sound system, so for us, $5,500 for an upgrade there just wasn't really worth it. So that is the final spec of the car. What I really enjoyed about speccing it up in Canada is there's a lot less options to choose from. You get a lot more standard equipment in the Canadian version than you do in either the European or the US version, so I'm grateful for that. And at this stage, really the only thing we're on the fence about is those red brake calipers that you can see on the screen, but we think it's going to look fantastic. We'll take another look at the spec probably, a couple of months before the build is due to start, just to make sure that we're comfortable with it, but as it stands, we think it's going to look great as it is. The best way to secure an allocation for an RS6 performance at this stage would be to call around your Audi dealers. I'd recommend both in-state and out-of-state to get an idea of their current RS6 allocations and associated wait lists. Be aware that some dealers won't ever get an allocation for an RS6, so it's best to target the higher volume Audi dealerships. Get a deposit down if you can, and see if you can move up the list if you commit to certain dealer options such as extra maintenance packages. Current wait times, if you get an accepted order placed today, would be about 6 months, but only expect that time frame to grow as Audi is still dealing with a constrained supply chain and demand for this model does remain strong. Another great option if you're US based is to check out the dedicated C8, RS6, RS7 thread on Audizine. There are a few well-informed people in the forum that either have experience with the Audi order process from the perspective of an employee or are still active in that space. This is great for two reasons. One, they can provide some good advice on locating and ordering an RS6 performance, and two, new builds that are available are sometimes posted, which means a shortcut to grabbing one if the spec hits the mark for you. The link to the Audizine forum will be included in the link below. A quick word on the rumoured RS6 GT potentially slated for 2024. The reality is very little is known about it at this stage, but given as it was seen testing at the Nürburgring, it does look like a definite possibility for next year, and it's also been mentioned in passing by Audi execs this year. I'll share a link to the Spy Shots video in the link below so you can take a look, and yes, we're on the list, but to be honest, have low expectations that even if it does come to fruition, that many will make it over to North America, so we'll just have to wait and see. That's all we have for you on the RS6 performance at the moment. We'll keep you posted on developments as we get near a delivery date, which should hopefully be in November. We're currently working through some post-delivery options such as paint protection film or ceramic coatings, so we'll let you know what we decide to go with. And we just received a channel-themed license plate, which will go on the car, but you'll have to wait until the delivery video to see that. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.